kept back by fraud, giving all praises to Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua Ba'Shem Kodash. And this is from the book of James, chapter 5, verse 4. I read from the first verse on down to this verse, and I said, let me, focus on this verse. Anyway, it says, behold, the higher. Now, when you look that word up in the Greek, that word means wages. I may come back, click on it, and go into the Greek word. But the word, that's why you have to go into these root words. Get the meaning of a word by going to either the Greek or the Hebrew. It says, behold, the hire, or the wages of the laborers, which we are the laborers. When we got over here, we became laborers without wages. And to this day, we are laborers with very little wages, because the way we get rewarded, that's another word for hire, or rewarded. When you work, you get rewarded money or whatever form of money. Like in the ancient world, they gave, in the Roman Empire, you had a thing called a salary, salt wages, which they gave you a bag of salt, because salt was used for money. As far as that in the denarius, which is the Roman coin that they use, in which the Caesars at that various times, what they would do is they would add inferior metals to the silver, and I believe I'm almost positive the denarius, or the denarii, we can say denarius, denarii. You have the one, and then you have many, the plural. The base metal was silver. And what they did was they would add, like I said, inferior metals to the denarius. And a Roman soldier would fight, and then he would go to buy things, and he would realize that denarius wouldn't go as far. So you had, just like today, you have police, you have firemen, you have EMS, you have doctors, you have nurses that are getting kicked off the job or walking off the job in great numbers. And this happened back in the Roman Empire. The soldiers didn't want to fight because they wasn't getting paid. They were putting their life on the line and not getting paid. It says, behold, the hire, which is the reward or the wages of the laborers, which are us. Like I said, when we got over here, we served slavery, so we worked without getting paid. They put us in slave quarters, and they fed us the lowest quality of food just to keep us alive, so we can work. And that's and you're going to pay for that. You are going into slavery. You're going to be our slaves. You are going to be our slaves. You're going to pay for what you did. And you just didn't do it to anybody. You did it to the Israelites. So for all you knucklehead Christians out there, especially you Jakes, the Most High is just going to get rid of you. No ifs, ands, or buts. Point blank, period. James 5 verse 4 again. Behold, the hire of the laborers who have reaped down your fields, meaning went and worked. Like today we use the term, well, I'm getting ready to go on my slave. I'm getting ready to go on the plantation. Are you actually going on the plantation? No, you're going on an actual job, whatever job it is. So it's the same thing for the fields. You had house Negroes and field Negroes. And the house Negroes thought they were better than the field Negroes. That goes on today. You have Jake that live in the corporate world that think that they're better than Jake that may work on construction or, works on a garbage truck. There's certain of our women that wouldn't give you the time of day. And I'm going to say this in general, fuck you black bitches. I'm not talking about the ones that are woken up, but the rest of you can go to hell, man. And you can let Jada Pinkett Smith, whatever the fuck her name is, she can lead you right to hell. Because you ain't coming on them ships. Anyway, I'm getting a little emotional here, but it says, which is of you kept back by fraud, crieth. The money that you're getting now is not real money. It's a big fraud. And you Negroes to this day don't understand how money works. You don't even know what real money is. So you haven't grown. You haven't grown. You don't know what the fuck is going on. The fact that you don't know that you're an Israelite in almost 2022, people like that, you just got to forget them. So we're going to look into the word fraud. It said, crieth, and the cries of them which have reaped, which is us going out there working for meager wages, entered into the ears of the Lord of Sabaoth. Sabaoth goes back to the Hebrew word, which means armies or troops. And why did James say the Lord of Sabaoth? Because he's going to use one of his armies to destroy the rich. As a matter of fact, you know what? Let me go to the first verse, which is entitled Misuse of Riches. It said, go to now, you rich men. It's talking about the super elite among Esau. Weep and howl for your miseries that shall come upon you. Your miseries are the missiles hitting this place, and you actually going into captivity. It tells you that in Psalms 149. It's the super rich that's going to be shackled up, and they're not going to be touched by the missiles, but their kingdom is going to be touched by the missiles. So they're going to escape in a bunker in another country, and we're going to dig them out of their holes. We're going to put them in dungeons, and then we're going to give them work assignments. And that's in Psalms 149. That's also in Isaiah, the 24th chapter. Isaiah chapter 14, the first two verses. And Isaiah 14 talks about, when you read down into it, it talks about, is dedicated to the destruction, the miseries that's going to come upon you. It said, go to now, you rich men. And the super rich are Edomites and certain nations that have committed fornication. We read about that in Revelation 18 chapter. Your society is done. Your society is fucking done. That's why you take down our videos. You bunch of goddamn devils. It says, weep and howl for your miseries that shall come upon you. Your riches are corrupted and your garments are moth-eaten. Your gold and silver is cankered, and the rust of them shall be a witness against you, and shall eat your flesh as it were fire. And that fire is a nuclear fire, as we always talk about. Ye have heaped treasures together for the last days. On a lower level, you have super rich Edomites that are worth billions, but then you have some that are worth trillions. You're talking about minting a $1 trillion coin, which is not really $1 trillion. It's symbolic. That's not going to help your situation. That's just a roundabout way of raising the debt ceiling. That's all you're doing. It tells you that in Habakkuk, laden with thick clay. And that word clay is from the Hebrew word abatya, which means depth. You're about $30 trillion in depth. But in actuality, you're in about $200+ trillion in debt. Because you have future liabilities, let's say. Bills that you have to pay in the near future. So you're fucked. You're screwed. The only thing left is the missiles. The mass chipping and then the missiles. It says, behold, the higher wages of the laborers, which are us, who have reaped down your fields, who have went and worked and built your society up, which is of you kept back by fraud, because you give them Federal Reserve notes, which loses its value. And especially now, since these money experts say print dollars. They're not printing dollars, they're producing dollars by way of printing them and adding zeros behind the one and on a central bank computer. When you get a credit card, you go to the bank, oh, you got good credit. We're going to give you a credit card if you sign for it. It doesn't mean that if they give you a credit card with $10,000 in it, that doesn't mean there's behind the wall there's $10,000 in your name. It's just a number until you spend it. And I did that. A couple of years ago, I received a bank that I was going to. I received a credit card, and they explained it to me, and it was some money, some good money on that, man. And I never used a card. And I said, they couldn't get me, so eventually they sent me a nasty letter saying, we're going to cut your account. You know why? Because I never used it. The way they make money is when you use a credit card, you pay them back by an interest. Except if you pay it back inside of 30 days. If you can go out and spend money on use a credit card to buy something, and you pay it before 30 days, there's no interest. They don't want that. They want interest. That's part of their fucking fraud. It says the hire of the laborers who have reaped down your fields, which is of you kept back by fraud. So right now you're experiencing inflation. Inflation, if it's not checked, will become hyperinflation. Hyperinflation means prices will go up every day, every week, every month. Then you can go and buy something in the morning and go back and buy that same thing, and it might be double the price or triple the price. That happened during the time of the Weimar Republic, before Hitler came on the scene. That's why they accepted Hitler. he 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 brought back some form of normalcy. He made it where the trains came on time. So of course they accepted him. Auto ad chaos. Order out of chaos. The global reset. And this inflationary condition, experience is happening worldwide. See, we're living in a global world. Meaning, one way or another, every country is connected to another, the next country. That's why ultimately they want to give the people of the planet a microchip, which is the fulfillment of Revelation, the 13th chapter. And you other camps that have been teaching otherwise, you're going to come out looking stupid. You're going to come out looking like a bunch of damn fools. And your people going to scramble. It said, behold, the hire of the laborers who have reaped down your fields, which is of you kept back by fraud, crieth. Who's crying? The ones that know that they're Israelites. The ones that know the name of the Lord and his beloved Son. And the cries of them which have reaped are entered into the ears of the Lord the ears of the Lord of Sabaoth. 5th verse. Ye have lived in pleasure on the earth, talking about the super elite among Esau, and been wanton, undisciplined. Ye have nourished your hearts as in the day of slaughter. What does that mean? That means when you sit down to eat a meal in the ancient world, you had a calf, a goat or whatever, a bullock, and they would kill it and they would cook it right there. A couple of hours ago, that animal was grazing, eating grass. A couple of hours later, they were being cooked. And that's the best time to eat, a clean animal, let's say, is when it's freshly killed. And that's what's going to happen in the kingdom. We're not going to have no refrigerators in the kingdom where you got to keep things cold before they go bad. It ain't going to be no leftovers. You're going to have leftover meatloaf in the kingdom. It says, 6th verse, ye have condemned and killed the just. The just are the Israelites. And he doeth not resist you. He does not fight you back. Why? Because he doesn't have the power to fight you back. So you got these people in the conscious community that say, you can't wait for God to come help you. Well, if that's the case, why didn't you take this man down? You ain't going to take this man down. This man got your number. He got your number. He can take you out just like that. Anyway, one precept come to mind. As Leviticus 19 verse 13, thou shalt not defraud thy neighbor. And Esau is our neighbor. So Esau wasn't supposed to do that. He was a fellow Hebrew, a fellow Semite that did what he did. Neither rob him. And that's what you're doing to us. The wages of him that is hired shall not abide with thee all night until the morning. Let me read that again. Thou shalt not defraud thy neighbor, neither rob him. The wages of him that is hired shall not abide with thee all night until the morning. Now, it goes even deeper than that. because you, for a number of years, you enslaved us. And they talk about, like before the last presidential election process, they talked about reparations. And then if you notice, when this guy became president, Biden, the word reparations, they're not even going to talk about it no more. Because that was a talking point. It's something to talk about. If I become president, you'll get your, until they get up in there, man. Now it's in the news that because they separated the parents from the children, the Mexicans that came over here illegally, they're talking about paying them $450,000 each. So if you're a family, you can get a couple $1 million. That's reparation. That's payback. You did wrong to somebody and you paid them back. Reparation means to repair. You haven't repaired the relationship between us and you. Your reparation is going to come in the form of you going to go into slavery. That's true reparations. Let's deal with the word fraud. I'm not going to make this long.
Strong's G 650. Apostereo. Apostereo.
Apostereo, which means to defraud, rob, despoil. First Corinthians 6 verse 8, nay, ye do wrong and defraud, and that your brethren. Now right here, 1 Corinthians 7 verse 5, it said, defraud ye not one another, except it be with consent for a time. So that word means also means to hold back. So what Paul was talking about, when you're with your wife and you fast and pray, you got to agree upon it, that we're not going to have sex with each other because we're fasting and praying for a couple of days. So to defraud means to not have sex with your wife in this particular scripture right here, 1 Corinthians 7 verse 5. First Timothy 6 verse 5, perverse disputing of men of corrupt mind, as Esau ultimately, and destitute of the truth, supposing that gain is godliness, from such withdraw thyself. This is Ecclesiastes 26 verse 28. There be two things that grieve my heart. And when I thought about this precept, I think about people that fight in the military and they come back home. You know, there's a lot of military men that are homeless, sleeping under bridges. And that goes for Jake and Esau and whatever nations or tribe fought for this man. I have a friend that I grew up with that was in the military. That man's homeless. It said there'll be two things. And what comes in my mind right now is Proverbs 29 verse 2. When the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice, but when the wicked bear rule, the people mourn. So who's bearing rule? Who's in the power seat? The wicked. Malachi 1. Read that whole chapter. There'll be two things that grieve my heart, and the third maketh me angry. A man of war that suffereth poverty, and men of understanding that are not set by, and one that returneth from righteousness to sin. Any of you guys that fell off and went back into the world, you're going to get the same punishment as Esau, as the super rich. The Lord prepareth such an one for the sword. The ultimate sword is a missile. See, this devil, he wants to throw this, we're neighbors. But he hasn't been neighborly. It says in Romans, what is that? Romans 13 and 10, 11. I'm not going to go to it. Somebody can put in the comment section. You know, it speaks about true love showeth no ill to his neighbor. So you throw out that neighbor stuff when you come up to the different camps in the name of your fake ass Christianity. Oh, be kind to thy neighbor. Love thy neighbor. Motherfucker, you never showed us love. The fact that we're over here is because we were carried over here to serve slavery. And to this day, we haven't received any form of reparation. Ecclesiasticus 22 verse 23. Be faithful to thy neighbor in his poverty, that thou mayest rejoice in his prosperity. See, if you said, I'm going to give all Jakes $1 million, which is an insult, but let's say you gave Jakes $1 million, that would help Jake. Really, anything less than $100 million is a goddamn insult, man. So really, you couldn't help us anyway. You're broke. Abide steadfast unto him in the time of his trouble. You devils haven't did that. It says, what is that? Jeremiah, I believe it's Jeremiah 5 or Jeremiah 15 and 5. Somebody could put that in the comment section. It says, will anyone come to thee and ask how thou doest? And they're not doing that. They don't give a shit. So when we get them in the kingdom, we're gonna have our feet, our foots on their necks, that thou mayest be higher with him in his heritage. You took our land. For a mean estate is not always to be condemned, nor the rich that is foolish to be had in admiration. So the bottom line is, you got to pay. That's why you demonize us. Anyway, with that, I'm going to say shalom.